welcome to Friday Fuel for December 9th, 2022. Join us Sunday evening at 5:30 for our Christmas party and graduate recognition. Monday afternoon, our study break is at Stevenson Hall. You can make bath bombs or stress balls and enjoy some snacks and treats and take a break between 2 and 5. Tuesday night, we'll have pancake night from 6 to 8. And Wednesday night, we'll close out the semester with a New Year's Eve bash, Wesley on Wednesday worship. And now, here's some fuel for your Friday. Well, it's the last week of classes. I just had my last class for the semester, and so things are winding down, but we should have a Friday Fuel next week for the end of finals week. And today, I've been thinking recently about, getting out the Christmas decorations, and we often get out our nativity scenes, and sometimes those just have Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus. Sometimes there's some animals, shepherds, a variety of characters. And I've been thinking about the characters in the story, and especially in Luke 2, which we read during our Christmas worship on Wednesday night, and how there's that word that so often has been translated as inn. We talked a little bit Wednesday night about how the word where it says there was no room for them in the inn is more of meaning guest room. So there wasn't room in the guest room of that house, maybe because there were so many people in town for the census that was being taken. And so Mary and Joseph were in a different part of the house, the part where the animals also would have been housed and, kept safe from the elements. There wasn't a separate stable. It would have been part of a house at that time. And all of that has me to thinking about just who do we think is involved in this story. I remember several years ago, I was teaching an Advent Bible study, and we were looking at works of art by the artist John August Swanson, and his depiction of the Annunciation when the angel comes to visit Mary has this whole, I think it's a tapestry, so it's a big, long rectangle, and it has sort of the whole village, and then at the bottom is Mary, and she's like feeding the chickens, or she's cooking, she's just going about her normal business. And it really made me begin to rethink how I perceive the story, because I think a lot of times we isolate Mary and Joseph. They're by themselves. They're in this completely alone. We talk about how scared Mary must have been, and we sing Silent Night. It was quiet that night, and yet, if it's true that there was no room in the guest room, that means that the house where they were staying was full. There were so many people there. Imagine what it probably was really like when Mary gave birth. There was probably a couple of aunties who were offering suggestions. There was hopefully a midwife that was actually helping deliver the baby. And who knows who else was there? Maybe there was a proud grandmother that we don't even read about in Scripture, because Mary and Joseph are admittedly much more important than the other characters. But for all of our wanting it just to be Mary and Joseph all on their own, maybe, I don't know if that's an American thing or just sort of lends itself better to traditions and legends, I bet there were a lot of people there. And imagine their excitement at just the fact that a new baby was born, let alone if they understood what the shepherds had been told, who came in from the fields, from watching their flocks, because the angels had showed up. And so I don't know if that challenges you at all, but in the last several years, I've just really been challenged to think about the fact that there's really no reason to disconnect Mary and Joseph from the communities where they lived. There's no likelihood that they were all alone. It wasn't the sad story that I think we so often tell, but I imagine that it was a raucous, loud night. That there were family members who were excited, maybe relatives they knew, maybe relatives they didn't know, because they were coming to Bethlehem to the ancestral home. Someone, it could have been a relative way on down the line that they were able to stay with in their manger stable room. But they most certainly were not assigned to a back lot somewhere all by themselves, just left to fend on their own. And that gives me kind of some joy that I had never really thought of before, and makes the story kind of more exciting and make more sense, right? That there were probably people there. There was family. It was a family gathering, and they welcomed in Jesus. And then the shepherds came, and who knows what other news got out about this baby that was born. So I'll be thinking about that a lot through the rest of this season of Advent and into the Christmas season. I hope that sparks some questions or some reflection in your life. What are the ways that we tell the story that probably aren't exactly how it happened, and why? And just reflect on that. Like, why do we say it that way? Why do we picture it that way? And what does that mean to us? Because so much of what we do and say during this season is traditional in one way or another, but not always scriptural. We often picture the shepherds and the wise men and Mary and Joseph and Jesus the baby, but we know it didn't happen like that. The wise men would have had to wander over from the book of Matthew into Luke to get there at the same time as the shepherds, so that seems unlikely. Matthew doesn't even mention the shepherds. They didn't make it over into Matthew from Luke. So I think this is a good time to read back through the stories in the Gospels, all 4 of them. Matthew, Mark doesn't have much, but you can read what's there. Luke and John, and just reflect on the great depth of detail that we have, and also just how interesting the story is, and all the things that went on that tell us who God is and how God was acting on that first Christmas. So I hope you have a lovely week, whatever your Christmas preparations are. And if you are having finals and final exams and papers, best of luck. You're in my prayers for focus and perseverance. And I will see you back here next week to wrap up the semester with one more Friday Fuel. Bye.